Humans are truly remarkable in their ability to learn and develop skills. Through their tireless dedication, they've been able to achieve incredible feats that were once thought impossible. From hand-weaving fibres that are only 4 microns thick, and knowing exactly how to straighten tailoring scissors purely by the feel, to being able to safely butcher one of the deadliest fish in the world. We travelled the earth to showcase some of the most talented artisans, masters and craftspeople, and explore the stories behind their incredible skills. Our first stop is Echizen, Japan. This is Terukazu. He's spent 37 years crafting chef's knives at his family's factory in Echizen. Each knife goes through 100 stages of production. It's a process that requires 10 years of practice and an immense amount of skill. Without the correct technique, the knives cannot be accepted at the high standard set by Takamura Homono.
まず包丁にとって一番大事なことは、大まかに言って3つあります。まずいい材料、次に、いい焼き入れとか熱処理ですね、鍛造熱処理で、最後にいい研ぎ、この3つがないとどれ一つ欠けていても絶対いい包丁にはならない。
Takamura Homono was one of the first knife makers to use a certain kind of stainless steel called high-speed powdered steel. It was originally designed for power tools like saws and drills because of its durability and strength, 2 qualities Japanese knives are known for today. Once the metal is cut, it's heated in an electric oven to harden and strengthen the blade. Then the hammering begins. At this point, the worker relies on experience and instinct to guide them in producing a blade of ideal strength and thinness.
さっきみたいに鍛造をトントントントントンとしてもう表面結構デコボコになりますよね。でそのままではダメなんできれいに磨いて、普通はきれいに焼き入れをしてで、研いで磨いて、その方が物がくっつかなかったと。じゃがいもであるとか人参であるとかピタッとくっついてなかなか取れないのに、デコボコだったらポロポロ取れると。
This hammered finish, called tsuchime, allows chefs to chop ingredients quickly and more efficiently. It also added a beautiful look to each blade. Another noticeable characteristic of a Japanese knife is its supremely sharp edge. Takamura presses the blade against a rough grindstone made of natural rock, a sharpening material you'll only really see used in Japan. This delicate step distinguishes a worker's skill, and only a master can completely get it right.
手にかかる微妙な力と、あと音と感覚で研いでいくんですけども、そこは一丁ずつやっぱり違ってくるし、砥石の状態も一丁研いだら変わってくるんですね。一丁ずつ変わってくる。叩き3年、叩きっていうんですね、作業をこっちも手で叩く、叩き3年で、研ぎは一生、ずっと勉強だと。
It takes 1 full day to sharpen the blade and another full day to secure and polish the handle. The final knife is totally unique, each with its own distinct balance, thickness and design. With the decades of training required to master this craft, it's likely these knives will remain highly admired and sought after for many years to come.
そうですね、やっぱり本当にこういう価値のある、もちろん時間もかかるわけですから、本当に申し訳ないんですけども、やっぱり、2年半とかそれくらい待っていただいた方も、おられます。でもやっぱり使って本当にそれができた時に待っててよかったと、もうこれ使ったら他の包丁はもう全然使えないとか、それ本当に嬉しいことですけども。
Next, we're in Sheffield, England, to meet Cliff Denton. Cliff is one of just 2 master putter-togethers left. Both in their 70s, the masters are the only ones skilled enough to undertake the final, delicate putting together of these scissors.
When I was young, every street corner had a little shop with masters in and working. They've gone. At one stage, we were doing like 85 90 different types of scissor. You know, when you've got it's just got that like magic touch, how to hold them, how to stroke them, how to edge them. And this, to instill on young lads, is hard, because it's not something you can write down and let them read. They've got to actually do it.
Traditionally, you would undertake a 5-year apprenticeship before you could even sit at the putter's table. And most surprisingly, the most important tool for this isn't anything small and delicate, but a hammer.
And I'm only going to get a tap.
The hammer is crucial to aligning the blades correctly.
So, oh, that's better.
The 2 scissor parts are screwed into place, and then a perfect curve is hammered into each blade. This part of the process is the hardest to get right, and the hardest skill to pass on.
If he hits that with the wrong tension or at the wrong angle or in the wrong spot, he will ruin those scissors. So I've put a scissor blade down and I've taken a swing at it, and I've just snapped the blade in half.
Once the 2 halves are married together, a final blade will be put on the scissor. Perfecting the art of putting together can take years.
When I pick a pair of scissors up, it tells me a story. I can open and shut it, it's tight, it's like, you can virtually just shove it away to your finger and it does the job. That's what you're after. Week after week, year after year if need be. And that's it.
Next, we're in Hanoi, Vietnam. Phan Thi Toan's family have been making silk for generations, growing and harvesting the threads from silkworms themselves to create luxury garments. But making lotus silk is different. Silk usually comes from silkworms. They're kept on wide trays and need to be fed almost 24 hours a day with mulberry leaves. The caterpillars delicately spin threads to create their cocoons, and it can take hundreds of silkworms to make a kilo of silk. But while the insects require careful looking after, they do most of the hard work themselves. The key difference between the bright yellow silk and the paler lotus version is that every single strand of lotus silk must be extracted by hand.
Với chúng tôi thì tất cả đất nước Việt Nam, nhân dân Việt Nam là ai cũng rất là quý cái bông hoa sen. Tất cả nước chúng tôi là rất là nhiều người trồng sen. Nhưng mà bao giờ cũng chỉ có thu hoa sen, thu hạt sen thôi. Còn cuống sen là vứt ra nó rất là bẩn. Khi mà người ta gợi ý cho tôi làm tơ sen thì tôi thấy có lợi. Cho nhân dân, cho nông dân thì tôi nghĩ là tôi có khả năng làm được thì tôi sẽ quyết tâm tôi làm.
Once the stem is selected and picked by hand, the silk inside can be extracted. Each stem contains a minuscule amount of thin, sticky fibers, which must be delicately rolled together and dried. The threads need to be processed within 24 hours while they're still wet, otherwise they will break, and so harvesting has to be done each day, and the lotus plants are only available to harvest between April and October. Once you've gone through the hard work of extracting these fibers, they're incredibly delicate too.
Bước đầu là tôi chưa nghĩ đến làm tơ sen, thì tôi nghĩ là tơ sen thì nó mỏng manh mà làm thì nó rất nhiều công. Sợi tơ tằm thì nó dai hơn cho nên là có thể dệt được bằng máy, còn sợi tơ sen thì nó không có độ dai như sợi tơ tằm cho nên là phải dệt bằng tay. Cái thời gian của cái việc nấy sợi là lâu nhất. Còn khi mà đã nấy được sợi rồi, cho vào máy dệt rồi thì nó cũng nhanh hơn nhiều, bởi vì tất cả bao nhiêu công đoạn mới được nấy được sợi thì một người lao động làm một ngày được 200 đến 250 cuống sen. Còn cái khăn rộng 36 cm, dài 1,75 m thì hết 9.200 cuống sen. Thì một người phải làm một cái khăn đấy là phải mất 2 tháng mới được một cái khăn.
Once dried, the threads are carefully weighed down and hand spooled, then put into the loom. These fibers are fragile by themselves, but once woven, can be as durable as traditional silk. The final product is unlike any other fiber. It's soft like silk, breathable like linen, and slightly elastic.
Tôi dạy rất là nhiều, nhưng mà dạy những người lớn tuổi cũng nhiều. Nhưng người lớn tuổi họ sẽ không có cái sự sáng tạo, không có đam mê mà không có cái làm thì nhanh bằng những thế hệ trẻ. Cho nên là 2 năm 19, 20 này là tôi đã dùng các em học sinh trong những dịp nghỉ hè là tôi dạy các em ấy. Mỗi năm là dạy 100 em rồi. Thì là nhìn thấy cái thế hệ tương lai đấy nó mới phát triển được tơ sen cho chúng tôi. Nhưng mà tôi chỉ mong là nhân dân Việt Nam và những thế hệ mai sau nó sẽ giỏi hơn chúng tôi, thì nó sẽ có những cái cách làm khác đi thì nó sẽ làm được nhiều hơn, nhanh hơn.
Next, we're in Goodwood, England. Rolls-Royce pays extreme attention to detail on every car they produce. With Rolls-Royce, prices are not given out to anyone, as the cars are fully bespoke from top to bottom. The level of quality can be seen and felt throughout every model, and that's thanks to their highly skilled workers. Remarkably, the detailed paintwork on Rolls-Royce cars is done by hand by just one person.
My name is Mark Court and I am the coach liner for Rolls-Royce Motor Cars. A coach liner means that I am able to put this pinstripe onto the side of the car. The uniqueness is the fact that I do it completely freehand, and I'm the only one within Rolls-Royce that can do this. That's like worldwide within the Rolls-Royce BMW group.
Even the tools used are meticulously researched and crafted in order to have the finest finishes on each car model.
So the brushes I use is made of squirrel hair. We found that most brushes nowadays are man-made, and which tends to leave brush marks within these lines. This is a natural hair. This natural hair tends to leave no marks at all. So we work to one standard, which is the highest standard. So we use one that leaves no brush marks at all.
And if customers without a coach line decide to add one to their car, Mark is on hand to travel worldwide with his paintbrush.
As normal, with Rolls-Royce, Rolls-Royce never comes back to us, we go to it. So if it's in Dubai, so be it, that's where I have to go.
Next, we go to Tokyo, Japan. The tetrodotoxin found in fugu is more toxic than cyanide, and each year around 20 people suffer poisoning from badly prepared fish. Despite that, this deadly pufferfish is a delicacy served across Japan. There are over 120 species of pufferfish. 22 different kinds are approved by the government for use in restaurants. But one is more prized and more poisonous than the others, torafugu, or tiger fugu. Yamadaya has been serving pufferfish for over 100 years, and it serves this specific kind. It takes a lot of skill and training to prepare this fish safely and know which parts are poisonous. Here is one of Yamadaya's chefs, who's been through an intense amount of training to be able to cook and serve such a potentially dangerous fish.
これはエラで、これが心臓、胆の、これが腎臓です。これは肝です。卵巣。目玉。これが食べれない。
The poisonous parts can vary by species, and hybrid species are appearing now that are even harder to tell apart. One of the hardest things to distinguish can be the female fugu's ovaries, which are extremely toxic, and the male's testicles, which are a delicacy. The Japanese government tightly control who can prepare fugu, and chefs need to take an extensive exam before they're legally allowed to serve the fish. This rigorous regulation means that while the fish can be lethal, far more people die from eating oysters than fugu each year.
Fugu の試験はまずフグの種類と、あとはフグの種類でも食べられるところが違うとか、食べれないフグとか、そういうのを勉強して、フグのさばくってなると時間があって、もし東京の場合だと20分以内で刺身までで、あとそれと別でフグの種類を当てるっていう、それをやって、合格できれば試験免許がもらえる。
Our next stop is Worthing, England. With a single tap, Mike Dadson can turn a faulty oboe back into the instrument it once was, in perfect condition.
And then hopefully at the end we should achieve a bottle-tight joint.
It takes 5 years to make a high-end oboe from start to finish. Oboes are one of the most complicated instruments to make, as the highest quality ones are made with African blackwood, which is a very difficult material to work with. The process of hollowing out the wood and sculpting the exterior is carried out carefully over a number of years, and with remarkable precision. Oboes that are considered high quality cannot have a single imperfection. Fixing bent keys is a test of patience. Sometimes, straightening out one key can bend another piece elsewhere. Mike draws upon decades of practiced dexterity to correct even the tiniest imperfections.
I found the point where I perceive the bend to be, so hopefully I'll just be able to
Mike often takes over 3 days to fine-tune an oboe, but all this patient work pays off.
We like to say you're only as good as your last oboe, basically.
How good was your last oboe?
Very good.
Next, we arrive in Kawajiri, Japan. Creating a custom-made calligraphy brush takes an intense amount of attention to detail. If a single hair is out of place, it must be removed. 70-year-old third-generation brushmaker Yoshiyuki Hata turns countless strands of raw hair into a perfect brush tip for master calligraphers, and he's been making these brushes since he was a teenager.
この筆がね、1本作るのに20年かかって、私が50から作り始めて、今70でちょうど完成したんです。
His family's workshop in Kawajiri focuses on what they call no-compromise craftsmanship. Each brush tip is handmade by a single artisan, but making these brushes isn't easy.
この線が出したい線、それに合う筆を作ることですね。
For a master calligrapher like Deizo Kaneko, small differences in a brush's hardness or ink retention can drastically affect the lines that it can produce.
表現したいと思った時にこの微妙な5ミリの差とか長さの差とか本当に少しの硬さ柔らかさやそれから毛のバネの強さとかいろんなことが筆っていうのは一本一本違うので。
The dozens of steps involved in brush making start with selecting the hair. Yoshiyuki uses a special type of hair to make his brushes. That being hair from the chest of a specific breed of goats that live in the Yangtze River Delta. He uses the hair from this specific breed because it's soft yet durable and retains ink extremely well.
初心者いうか学童さんが使うのはやっぱり硬い筆、馬、タヌキ。だんだん柔らかいのは今の羊毛筆なんかは腕が19歳じゃないと使えないんで。
Selecting high quality hair is done entirely by eye, and it's one of the hardest skills for a new brush maker to learn.
原毛用で言ったら色、艶、耐久性。あと見てこれは10年20年持たないなやなければそこで一本一本こう寄る時に抜いていくんですよね。
But this long process is just beginning. Once the hairs are chosen, they're boiled and combed to remove any fluff. This process separates straight, long hairs which are ideal for brush making. One of the most time-consuming steps is aligning all of these hairs. This delicate work is key to making a uniform brush, but it's largely based on experience and instinct.
とにかく自分の目と手でこうやって揃えた分が完成形なんよね、先揃えの。
Throughout the process, brush makers patiently remove any imperfect or damaged hairs.
そうですね、無駄毛あんだけ取ったらもう毛がなくなるんじゃないか言われるんですが、それもこれだけ出る印を頭に置いて設計をするからあれだけ取らないと描くのに割れたりとかいい線が出ないからね。もう筆作りを 始めたのがやはり工房が遊び場だったんで、ちっちゃい頃からそれはね200パターンぐらいは頭の中にあるんですよね、設計図が。まあやっぱし目と手と勘ですよね。
At this stage, Yoshiyuki's vision for a brush starts to take shape. After trimming, he wets the hair and combines different bundles to create a brush that is dense and durable. Then he dips the hair in Fanori, an adhesive liquid made from seaweed, to hold the hairs together.
あと書道家の先生だから出丈が1ミリ2ミリ0コマ何ミリ言われるから、それに工程でも手を抜いたらその筆は僕はダメじゃもし思いますね。魂が入っとらんから。
The finished brush tip is almost unrecognizable from the raw hair. But the precise work isn't over yet. Once the hair dries, Yoshiyuki ties up the ends and burns each one with a hot iron, binding the hairs together. Any mistake here could completely ruin a month of work. Finally, it's time to assemble the brush. Like the brush tip, each handle is custom made.
軸はやはり軸屋さんいて、これは奈良の私たちみたいな親子でやっている職人さんが、太さが皆先生によって手の筆圧大きさが違う。
Kozo, Yoshiyuki's son, will be the workshop's 4th generation brush maker.
やはり父も職人で、あんまり言葉を通して伝えるっていうことはしないしできない人間なので、自分が見て学ぶ、それから作っていったものの結果がいいものになれば父はうなる、よし、それ悪ければもうただひたすら違う。
Next, we go to London, England. Shaving off a millimetre too much of leather could ruin the fit of this bespoke shoe. To make a finished pair, artisans must carve, hammer, and stitch each detail to the exact specifications of a customer's foot, twice. Simon Bolzoni is the last maker and owner of Cannons, a store in London that has been selling bespoke shoes all made by hand, using traditional techniques passed down over centuries.
You could bring a craftsperson in here that made our shoes 100 years ago and they'd be able to start work probably straight away. The fit is tailored completely to each person, whereas a ready-made shoe is essentially a generic shape. It will either fit your right foot or your left foot, but it won't perfectly fit both.
The key difference is this, the last. It's a wooden mould carved to the exact measurements and features of the customer's foot.
It's the foundation of the whole shoe. It determines whether the shoe is going to be comfortable. It's also the style.
To make a last, shoemakers start by measuring the client's feet in 6 to 8 key locations. Each foot is measured separately, and a different last will be created for each shoe. He starts by cutting away large amounts of wood, then makes small adjustments with hand tools.
Even the smallest little half a millimetre sometimes can just make all the difference. It can just throw the whole thing off. The easiest thing for me to do would be to just make a beautiful last. The challenge is to make it beautiful and to actually make it fit.
Last making is Simon's specialty. He inherited this workbench from the shoemaker who trained him.
This has been in the business for forever. I believe it was with the business before he came into it, which was in the 1950s.
Making a last can take days. It's a constant process of carving wood and checking the measurements. Leather is another key component to the bespoke shoes created here at Cannons. Before cutting, one of the artisans, Reese, examines the leather for any defects.
As I go through the skin, I pull up every section of the skin and examine it, and what I'm looking for is a blemish-free section. So it can't have any tick marks, tick bites, any stretch marks, because that will show up when the shoe is lasted and spoil the look of the shoe. At this level, anything like that is unacceptable. We have to have a perfect skin. Often we only cut one pair per skin.
This leather will become the upper, the top part of the shoe. Artisans pull it tightly over the last and carefully work it into shape to ensure there's no excess material or wrinkles. This step alone can take 2 days and requires a very steady hand. It's a constant process of stretching, hammering, and scraping. Yasu has been a shoemaker for over 25 years. He works quickly, but each motion is intentional, bringing the shoe closer to its final shape. Achieving a clean fit is essential for premium bespoke shoes. But the upper isn't the only part of the shoe that needs a clean fit. The bottom of the shoe has 2 parts, the outer sole, which touches the ground, and the inner sole, which sits under your foot. To make the inner sole, artisans cut out leather and meticulously tack it around the last. As with the upper part of the shoe, artisans shape this material to perfectly match the customer's foot.
So this customer's got a really high arch in here, so we're going to do an insole up for support. And he's also got this pocket here where his joint sits that's been added. So basically this is going to be molded completely to the last. And this is one of the fundamental things that separates, ready to wear or factory made shoes from bespoke shoes.
For each step, shoemakers work with the shoe on their lap, paying their full attention to every detail.
It basically just gives you control. You're able to switch back and forth. You can change the position of this quite freely. Check how it's sitting, check the movement of the leather. I think if you've got it in a held position, you just don't have that flexibility.
To fuse all of these pieces together, shoemakers use a sewing technique called welting. They sew a strip of leather around the shoe to attach the sole to the upper. Some shoe manufacturers use glue to combine all of the parts, but Simon says a stitched welt, like this, makes the shoe easier to repair.
It's ideal actually because the outsole can be stripped off. You can just take another piece of leather and stitch back through the welt again. So it's almost infinitely repairable. As long as the upper is kept in reasonable condition, the shoe really can last a lifetime. A ready-made shoe would easily be made in a day. There's made in a factory environment. You could quite easily notice the difference. When you put your feet into the shoe, you'll lock into a bespoke shoe. It's because the insole has been blocked to the shape of the bottom of your foot.
For Simon, crafting the perfect fit for a client makes all the effort worth it.
I like the journey that it takes. That you go on a journey with each of these individual people, which might last for many, many years. It could last for your whole career when you're doing it.
Next, we go to Nagano, Japan. Bonsai is an art form that requires years of training and centuries of dedication. Chiako Yamamoto is a 4th generation bonsai master based in central Japan and has been creating bonsai for the last 51 years. One of the hardest skills to master when growing these plants is patience, a skill Chiako has in abundance.
でこれがこうなってきます。でこれがそうですね。15年ぐらい経ってこれが15年ぐらい経ってできたものですね。ここら辺が、古い木ですね。こういうのが25年ぐらいそれからこういうふうになって作る。やっぱり絵だとかそういうのはもう完成したらそこからは何も変わっていかない。でも盆栽は変わっていくんですよね。それは自分の愛情とか管理で変わっていく。そうやっていつも安定してない不安定感があるから安定してないものに自分の愛情をかけて自分ので植え替えしても新しい根を作ったら3年かかる。で変わるのは5年。だから植え替えしても植え替えした今年の仕事は3年5年後に結果が出る。
The time and devotion this process requires is unlike almost any other form of artwork. While the work is almost a form of sculpture, the plants are living things and will always react in their own way.
3年はまあまあで5年になって自分の考えが答えが出てくる。 そうやっていつもいつも変わる。その5年後になんでこんな作り方しちゃったのかなっつって、それは植物生きてるから太陽に向いて好き勝手にこう動いちゃうわけよ。そうすると自分の発想と違う動きしちゃう。それともう一回自分の見方をこうやってこれよろしくないでいつもいつもそうやって変化していく。その結果がすぐ出ないから長生きしないと結果が見えてこない。
The extraordinary length of this process means that there just aren't that many trees around. Certain types of trees are also harder to grow, or require certain techniques, and may fetch a higher price. But more than anything, these trees are works of art, valued for their beauty and the vision of the artist. Our next stop is Lowestoft, England. Making a Series 7 Kolinsky Sable watercolour brush isn't easy. The largest size brush can take almost a week and a half to make. The intricate work and dexterity required means these brushes are almost exclusively made by women. It takes 3 years to train, and there are only 9 brush makers in the world that can make the top-of-the-range Series 7 brushes. Sandra Harris has been working and honing her brush making skills for over 2 decades.
I joined here when I was 16. I worked 18 years, and then I had 12 years off, and I've been back 11, so that's 28 years I've been working for the company.
Each brush head is made from Kolinsky Sable, a Siberian weasel whose hair is said to cost 3 times the price of gold by weight. Once the hairs are cleaned and graded, it's time to start making the brush. The wool is removed with a comb, and the hairs are packaged up and carefully boiled and ironed. The brushes have to be made with hair at its natural length, and the skilled brush makers can effortlessly separate between 28 and 32mm length hairs just with their hands. This skill takes years of training and practice. The 9 brush makers each have 27 years of experience on average. Hairs that are blunt or twisted have to be discarded, and most importantly, as each natural hair comes to a point, every hair must be the correct way up. The removed upside-down hairs can be flipped and reused. Hairs facing different directions can be separated using a turning board and some skill. Every single hair is checked over by hand. The smallest brush size hairs are just 7mm long, shorter than an average eyelash.
We can't afford to let standards drop in any way, shape or form. What I would say from that is what this factory has is hand skills. It has individual skills. It has skills that when I have new people come in here, they don't sometimes believe that this kind of work still happens. We show them what people do, they will turn around and say, I'll never be able to do that. But they will be able to do that if they understand that quality comes first.
When the hairs are all sorted, they're ready to go into the cannon. The bundle is tied together and gently twisted through. Individual hairs are added or taken away until it's an exact fit.
They need to have that fine point to work with, that basically it has that colour carrying capacity, that the brush won't split or do anything that it shouldn't do, basically. Through the hair that we use, through the skills of our makers and how they make them, we've done everything we possibly can to make sure that we've produced the best product we possibly can.
Then it's time to attach the handles. The factory uses birchwood handles, imported from Italy. The brush is glued into place, and then the brush heads are crimped onto the handles. This crimping process bends the metal to shape and keeps the handle tightly attached to the brush. Once the paintbrush is assembled, it needs to be branded and tested. The size and logo of each brush is stamped in gold on the handle. Wet point testing assures that everything works exactly as expected and there aren't any loose or crooked hairs. Each brush is then gummed, a process that gives it the final shape and allows it to bounce back. The shape of the natural hairs gives the brush a wide belly and a fine point.
So the key to our brush making is the people. and that is the skill. We retain knowledge from generation to generation. So we have makers now that are working under an apprenticeship of a 49-year served brush maker who himself had an apprenticeship under another 49-year serving brush maker who was brought into the business under his father, who made brushes directly for Queen Victoria. And it's very key that we retain that knowledge throughout the business, generation to generation, and we are now bringing in the next generation to make sure that we uphold the very high quality standards that we base ourselves on.
Our next stop is Iran. Hand-woven with the finest materials, including wool and silk, a single Persian rug can often take years and sometimes decades to create. We followed some of the highly skilled rug weavers to get a deeper understanding of the process that goes into making these incredible rugs.
میگفتم هر خونه‌ای ممکنه به فراخور سایز خونه‌اش دار همون سایز داشته باشه. مثلا طرف خانمی ممکنه خونه کوچیکی داشته باشه، دار کوچیکتری داره و فرقی که دار فرشای فارس میکنه مخصوصا حالا تو گبه و اینو سخت میکنه بافتشو، برای بافنده خیلی سخت‌تر میشه، اینه که دار فرشای فارس زمینیه. فرشای فارس به صورت افقیه، یعنی بافنده خیلی باید بیشتر زحمت بکشه، از کمرش خیلی اذیت میشه و باید به این صورت مثل دولا شده این فرش رو کامل به بافه بره جلو.
The process of weaving a Persian rug differs slightly with each variety, but generally speaking, a bed of foundation material called warp is installed into a frame called the loom. Starting at the bottom, weavers then feed wool in between the warp, tying knots called weft on each one. A highly detailed silk rug can have over 1,000 knots per square inch.
و به طب هر چی که فرش بزرگتر میشه خب زمانش بیشتر میشه و یه وقتایی یه گبه ها یا یه فرشایی که مثلا یه گبه هایی که مثلا خیلی بزرگترن دیگه یه نفر نمیتونه ببافه، احتیاج به 4 نفر 3 نفر کنار هم با هم باید اینو بیارنش به قول معروف بالا. خب این ضربه در مثلا یه گبه 12 متری رو اگه یه نفر بخواد ببافه شاید 2 سال طول بکشه، ولی چون 4 نفر با هم شروع میکنن به بافت تقسیم به 4 میشه، مثلا میتونه تو 6 ماه 7 ماه این بافته بشه. 1 متر گبه رو تقریبا بین 1 ماه تا 2 ماه یه نفر میتونه 1 متر گبه ببافه.
Some Persian rugs are made following preset patterns, but a lot of the designs are down to the amazing creativity and improvisation of the weavers, who like to add their own traditional motifs, such as goats, trees and dolls.
با فرمول نداره، اینو باید با گوشت و پوست و استخونتون حس کنید، کلکیت زدن رو، بافتن فرش رو، گره ها رو درست چیز کردن. جالب این که کسی که مثلا یه فرش قشقایی خوب میبافه این نمیتونه بره یه فرش تبریز خوب ببافه، یا اون کسی که یه فرش تبریز عالی میبافه نمیتونه بره یه فرش شاید اصفهان خوب ببافه. و جذابیت و بامزه است اینو بدونیم که جالبه که هر منطقه‌ای یه فرش رو میتونه خوب ببافه.
Next, we head to the Nara Prefecture in Japan. This is ink. Toshitsugu Akabe has been tirelessly kneading it until it's as soft as a rice cake. It's imperative for him to be as thorough as possible to create the high-quality ink only a master can produce. The process of creating this ink takes a long time. Any artisan needs to have years of experience to reach these high levels of craftsmanship. The most intensive and lengthy parts of the process are the kneading and drying stages, where all the soot, glue and fragrance are combined together. The dough is kneaded every morning, by hand and foot. Toshitsugu takes care to knead it thoroughly, so the soot and glue are evenly distributed. That way, the solid stick can eventually dissolve into homogeneous liquid ink. Once he's properly kneaded the dough, Toshitsugu cuts it into balls and weighs them for consistency. Then he places the balls into molds and uses a machine to press them into shape. Improperly kneaded dough results in ink sticks that don't produce a rich colour.
中がこうなんていうんですかしっかり揉まれてる状態ですぐ型に入れないとあんまり、時間かけると外側だけカピカピになってなんていうんですか干からびて中がちゃんと揉めてないっていう状態になってしまうんでねそれでもちょっと急がないといけないですね。
Kobayen makes about 6,000 of its smallest, highest quality ink sticks a month. It employs a handful of artisans for this, and the ones tasked with kneading require the most experience. It takes 5 years to train as a sumi ink craftsperson, but 10 years before they're allowed to make high quality ink. Kobayen produces almost 40,000 of its smallest sumi ink sticks between October and April. When the cooler weather of winter ensures the glue can harden during shaping. Drying the ink sticks too quickly will cause them to crack, making them unsellable. So artisans rely on a traditional technique, using oak ash to slowly absorb moisture from the sticks over a long period of time. They start by placing the sticks over moist ashes. Each day they swap yesterday's ashes with drier ones. They repeat this process for up to 40 days, until the ink sticks are about 70% dry. After, they hang the sticks with straw and air dry them in-house for up to 6 months. Properly drying and maturing an ink stick takes at least 4 years, making this entire process require incredible amounts of patience. Things have to be done this way for the sticks to be able to perform at their best. Our next stop is Lombok, Indonesia. This is the most important moment in the process of creating a South Sea pearl. The moment when Heri inserts the nucleus into an oyster, around which a pearl will form. If he's not precise, the resulting pearl may come out misshapen. South Sea refers to the southern portion of the Pacific Ocean. In these waters, just off the coast of Lombok, Indonesia, pearl farms like Afdol Pearl are growing cultured pearls. These are pearls that require an incredibly skilled human to put something inside an oyster, instead of harvesting naturally occurring pearls. While some freshwater oysters can churn out dozens of smaller pearls within 3 months, it takes about 5 years to cultivate a single South Sea pearl. And the oyster it comes from, the Pink Tarda maxima, can only make one at a time. Only a fourth of these oysters survive cultivation. That's why the pearl farmers have to go to great lengths to keep the oysters alive. It starts in this highly controlled laboratory, where lab technicians must create the perfect conditions for oyster larvae to grow into healthy, pearl-producing adults. They have to maintain a room temperature of exactly 20 degrees Celsius and feed the larvae the phytoplankton they need to grow. To do this, they combine salt water from the South Sea with sodium hydroxide and store it for 5 days until there's enough plankton. Lab techs feed the plankton to nests of baby oysters and monitor their growth for about 45 days. That's about the time they reach at least 1 millimeter in diameter and are old enough to be transferred to sea. In the South Sea, the oysters get the warm waters and food they need to mature. But this is also where most of them will die without producing a single pearl.
Itu yang akan hidup nanti cuman 25.000 dari 10.000 itu. 2.500 maksudnya. Karena 75% itu dia pasti meninggal.
That's why pearl farmers have to check on the oysters monthly to ensure they're still growing, eating, and healthy. They pull the nets of oysters up from the sea and clean the shells. This helps prevent predators from feeding off the oysters and eventually killing them. As you can see, nurturing these oysters takes a lot of time and patience, as well as a meticulous attention to detail. If this isn't done, the likelihood of these oysters dying starts to increase dramatically.
Ya agar ini kadang kalau kerangnya kotor kan ketutup semua. Jadi susah untuk makan. Di sini banyak lumut, banyak kotoran, banyak bakteri juga, ada ulat di sini. Kadang-kadang itu yang bisa bikin mutiara jelek. Jadi tujuannya juga untuk kita bangunkan. Kadang-kadang kerang tidak mau bangun.
After up to 2 years of nursing, when the oysters are large enough, implantation can begin. For cultured pearls, implantation is the most important step. When the nucleus is implanted, an oyster sees it as an irritant and reacts by building protective layers of nacre around it. This becomes a pearl. Henry is demonstrating where the nucleus is implanted into an opened oyster.
Terus yang ini inti namanya. Jadi sebelum masukkan ini terbuat dari kulit kerangnya.
He tears the oyster's gonads and injects the nucleus in the middle. He then adds saibo under the nucleus. Saibo is a mantle tissue cut from another oyster that surrounds the implanted nucleus. It's essential to the pearl quality, and without it, the oyster won't produce any pearls at all. Harry is the only person Afdol trusts with this step. After the nucleus is implanted, special attention is paid to how the nacre grows around it, to avoid a misshapen pearl. They're working towards a large, almost perfectly round pearl. Workers invert the oysters and put them in their protective nets to bring back to sea. The South Sea pearl's unique soft satin luster and thick nacre are the result of the warm waters it grows in. And a thick nacre means a large pearl. Harry says they must flip them regularly, so the nacre grows evenly.
Jadi itu tidak boleh terlewatkan dia. Selama 40 hari itu ada schedule-nya, kita bikin schedule untuk 3 hari. 1 minggu setelah suntik, kita biarkan setelah lubang yang kita robek itu nutup, baru kita bolak-balik.
After 40 days, workers remove the oysters from the sea and clean them weekly. Harry checks the implanted oysters monthly to see how the pearl is developing. This is done for up to 2 years before the first pearl can be harvested.
Untuk 3 tahun pertama itu minimal size-nya dari 0,9 atau 0,8 gram atau bisa dikatakan 7 sampai 11 mm. Itu tahap yang pertama, 3 tahun pertama. Itu bijinya itu 1,3 gram lah, minimal 0,8 lah ya.
Harry implants the same oyster 2 more times. Each time, the pearl Afdol harvests is bigger. By the 3rd harvest, the pearl can reach over 20 millimeters in diameter and over 8 grams in weight. But as much as pearl farmers like Mahmoud invest in the intense care needed to raise the oysters, the outcome is never guaranteed. Mahmoud says only 20% of the oysters that survive make the most valuable kind of pearl. Almost perfectly round, lustrous and large. Mahmoud grades the pearls based on size, luster, shape, and colour. The larger, rounder, shinier, minimally blemished pearls get the highest grade. That can be triple or quadruple A, depending on the producer. Mahmoud then sells them to jewellers, like Rihanna Melia, who fashions the pearls into necklaces, earrings, and rings. Our next stop is Ubon Ratchathani, Thailand. Hand-beaten from sheet materials, the labour-intensive shaping and delicate paintwork result in beautiful percussive instruments. This is Thailand's Gong Highway, a 21-mile stretch of road that is home to more than 50 family-owned gong companies. In the heart of the highway is Bunrak Sichana's workshop. As a 3rd-generation gong maker, Bunrak has been studying and practicing gong making for almost 50 years.
ชอบทำคล้องติดตามการทำคล้องพ่อและปู่ย่าตายายมาตั้งแต่เล็กๆตั้งแต่6 ขวบครับจนปัจจุบันนี่แหละครับก็ชอบการทำคล้องเพราะว่ารักในการ งานอาชีพงานฝีมือหรือว่างานแฮนด์เมดนะครับเป็นงานที่ยากก็ว่าได้จะว่าง่ายก็ได้สำหรับคนที่เป็นนะครับ
The process begins by cutting the sheet material into a circle. No materials go to waste here. Even the offcuts are used to make the largest shape possible. This flat dish is then ready to be hammered into shape. The gongs made here in Thailand are of the bossed variety, where a center knob is surrounded by smaller nipples. This design is stenciled on the back of the gong with a homemade compass, and bangers begin to hammer out the shape. The bangers use templates engraved into tree stumps that allow the knob and nipples to be hammered out fully and evenly. After this physically intense step comes an even harder part, the tuning. Tuners observe and train for years to master their skill. They then strike the gong in different places and listen for acoustic imperfections. Using a mallet to make slight alterations, they continue this process, hoping to reduce dissonance in the sound frequencies emitted from the gong.
ทักษะเนี่ยเราจะรู้ว่าเสียงคล้องจะทำยังไงให้มันดังครับแล้วจุดไหนที่มันไพเราะจุดไหนที่เสียงกังวานเราต้องรู้ครับต้องรู้ว่าจะตกแต่งตรงไหนดีบางเจ้าเขาชอบเสียงสูงก็ตามเหมือนกับคอร์ดเสียงแต่ได้เสียง
Once satisfied with the sound, the gong is coated in enamel, ready to be hand-painted by extremely talented artists. The quality and traditional craftsmanship at Bunrak's workshop is clear to see, and the historical importance of the gong is felt throughout Southeast Asia.
คือเสียงกังวานนะครับกังวานแล้วก็เสียงยาวแล้วก็ตีไปเนี่ยรู้สึกกังวานในหัวใจซึ้งในเสียงเพราะมันเสียงเป็นเสียงบอกบุญนะครับเสียงบอกบุญคือเสียงคล้องนี่เป็นเสียงบอกบุญเป็นสัญญาณ
Next, we're in Kyoto, Japan. Making a Japanese longbow is a very challenging task. Kanjuro Shibata's family has been making bows for over 450 years. Bamboo is a core material to creating the longbows, and Kanjuro tries to obtain most of his bamboo locally around Kyoto. Even these initial steps take time and patience, as before the bamboo is used, it needs to be dried for 3 years. Kanjuro shaves the dried bamboo down to a thickness of 4 to 5 millimeters. This is one of the most physically demanding parts of the process, because bamboo is dense and fibrous.
マダ系を使います。加工しにくい。だから弓を作る人間には非常に弓や中瀬でありますけども。
A Japanese bow consists of 3 main layers. 2 pieces of bamboo and an inner core, called nakuichi. The nakuichi is made out of laminated bamboo and wax tree wood, and it's much harder than the bamboo on the outside.
でその柔軟性に富む材料だけで弓を作りますとよく曲がることは曲がるんですけども元へ戻る力がすごく弱いんです。で柔軟性にかける材料と柔軟性に富んだ材料を合わせてそれぞれの長所を生かすためにこういうふうに竹とその木を合わせて作るのが日本の弓なんです。
Kanjuro glues filled bamboo on either side of the nakuichi to form the bow. For some bows, he uses a natural glue called nibe, which is harder to work with, making the final product more expensive than the bows that use synthetic glue. But the hardest part is bending this straight bamboo into the shape of a bow. Kanjuro winds rope around the bamboo and inserts over 100 wedges, while bending curves into the bow. Because of the bow's length, this process is extremely tedious. But it must be done quickly, before the glue dries. Thanks to decades of patience, it takes Kanjuro around 10 to 15 minutes.
つつことによって、この竹に巻いと中打ちという部材3つがぐっとこう締まって、圧着できます。 その時点でだいたい弓の良し悪しは決まってしまいます。
Despite the importance of this step, Kanjuro shapes his bows entirely by eye.
でそれは別に肩を当てて全部ここの曲がる R はこれだけっていうのは決まってなくて、全部自分とやっぱり頭の中で描いたものをこうしようっていう描いたものを全部手に伝えてやっていきますんで、今縄を巻いてくさびを打っていたくさびを打って作る形っていうのは弓の自分が作りたい弓の形の反対側の曲線を描かされるわけ。弓の強さと反発力を高めるような仕事に。
After the glue dries, Kanjuro removes the wedges and bends the bow into its final shape.
見た目は華奢に見えるんですけども、使ってみると手強くて強いだけじゃなくて、なんていうかな、キレがいいとか反発力が強いとか、弓の性能というのはやっぱり軽くてその割に強くてキレがある、使ってて気持ちがいい。
Kanjuro wants his bows to be accessible to more people. As long as it doesn't affect the final quality, he tries to make the process as efficient as he can.
僕職人って呼ばれるの好きじゃないんです。なんていうか技術者でありたいと思う。クラフトマンシップってありますよね。私そういう精神量はあんまり好きじゃないんです。
で自分が弓を買う時の求めて買う時の基準はやはり引き味、しなやかさとか、そういう体にマッチしてくるで、そういう感じを弾いてみて選んでます。
で非常に作り手の個性を反映するもんなんで、自分という作り手を信頼して。
Our next stop is New Hampshire, USA. This is a Damascus knife. Master bladesmith Zach Jonas is twisting a fusion of steels to make one of the trademark swirl patterns in a Damascus knife. But these unique swirls are more than just decorative. Successfully welding dozens or even thousands of steel layers creates some of the strongest and sharpest knives around, and making these knives is extremely difficult. To make Damascus steel, Zach starts by layering 2 different kinds of high carbon steel. Managing the layers means more work for the smith. And while high-end mono steel knives may perform similarly, Damascus knives are coveted for their striking appearance and the craftsmanship required to achieve it. After tacking the layers together, Zach puts the stack in the forge and heats it to about 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit. This step requires many years of experience, training the eye to judge when the steel is ready, because it's at risk of breaking off the handle where the layers are not yet forge welded together. Zach needs to consider the kind of pattern he wants to make before he can begin forging. This step requires many years of experience, training the eye to judge when the steel is ready, because it's at risk of breaking off from the handle while the layers are not yet forge welded together. A bold pattern means fewer layers, and a more intricate pattern can require several thousand. And working with so many layers to achieve his intended design means lots of things can go wrong. Out of thousands of hammer strikes, a single blow in the wrong place can ruin the pattern. Even when the pattern is done to perfection, Zach has to forge the steel into a knife without distorting the design. And if he forges the steel when it's too cold, it can crack and he has to start over, which for Damascus steel can mean losing weeks of work. This is not a simple task. Only masters of the craft are able to pull this technique off consistently. Once he forge welds the steel into a long bar, Zach can begin folding over the layers.
So you can see I'm twisting the steel with this wrench. It's got to be real hot. If it gets too cool, the layers will want to shear, come apart, and then the piece is trash. I'm keeping track of the rate that I'm twisting at and counting as I go.
This technique is specific to twist Damascus, and it creates star-like patterns on the steel.
Too much twisting and the steel will want to shear, but The tighter the twist, the more dramatic the pattern. And that'll do it.
When Zach is making a standard Damascus wave pattern, he continues to work on elongating and thinning the bar using a power hammer. Once Zach forges the tip of the blade, he cross-checks it with his template to ensure the knife looks exactly as it should.
Now it needs to undergo a metallurgical change, which is called heat treatment, and this part is hardening. And without doing this, the thing might be shaped like a knife, but it won't behave like a knife. It won't take an edge, it won't hold an edge. So the heat treatment is really, really a critical process, and it determines the metallurgy and therefore the performance of the finished knife.
But it's the quenching that makes or breaks the knife. Sometimes a blade will fail in the quench by cracking or warping irretrievably. Zach tries to avoid this by being as meticulous as possible, using his 15 years of experience to guide him.
Looks like the blade came through the hardening process really well. It's straight, it doesn't have much warping. Little warps can be corrected, and I can see that the scale has blown away from the surface of the steel here, which tells me that the steel has contracted and become hard, and that's what I was looking for. So now this is ready for finish grinding and then a handle. The grinding operation is one of the areas where the skill is kind of most important and most obvious, and this is one of the things that really drives the cost. A single slip can ruin the piece in an instant.
The handles are also an important factor for creating the perfect knife. Zach uses Arizona ironwood, which is a hard and durable material. Because of the hardness of the wood, it requires a lot more effort, skill, and experience to shape. Zach designs the handles so that they serve the purpose of the knife. He makes the kitchen knife handles slim but large enough for the chef to have a firm grip. A hunting knife, on the other hand, requires different properties. It might be used with cold or wet hands, which can cause them to slip. The final step in creating a Damascus knife is the etching, which makes the pattern bolder to the eye. Once dipped in the etchant mixture, one of the alloys oxidizes and turns darker, while the other alloy resists, maintaining its color. Now the Damascus pattern is revealed. But Zach isn't done yet. He needs to assess the quality of his creation.
Let's test the edge. And I use paper for this. This is a simple test. It should glide through with no problem.
This knife is razor sharp, with no dullness that needs adjusting. Zach has crafted another stunning Damascus knife. Next, we head to Saitama, Japan. Japanese sword making is a tradition that goes back centuries, and one that's carried on to this day. Each sword requires dedication, skill, and can take over 18 months to create. This is Master Akihara, an extremely skilled sword maker who's been crafting these blades for the last 21 years. In that time, he went through a 5-year apprenticeship and years of training to become one of only 180 swordsmiths working across Japan. Each sword is a unique artwork, and one that is made to be admired as you would a painting. As sheets of steel are meticulously folded into each other again and again, wood grain-like patterns form, and these patterns, coupled with the immense skill of the swordmaster, create a completely unique blade.
なぜこうやって姿を見るかというと、私たち刀の仕事をしている人間、あるいは刀の好きな人間からすると、まず刀の姿を見ると、古い刀であればその刀が作られた時代が分かりますし、現代のものであればその作家がどういう時代のものを狙って作ったかなという、作為が分かります。
Knowing what to look for in each sword is important. Characteristics like the angle and length of the blade, or the way the metal is folded, could give away the era in which it was made, and even who made it.
切っ先の部分というのが、いろんな直線曲線が集まる場所でもあって、ここは刀鍛冶の腕の見せ所でもあるし、その刀を研いだ研ぎ師さんの腕の見せ所でもあります。だから僕らはこういうところを見て、あ、この刀鍛冶はうまいなとか、あるいはこの研ぎ師さんはうまいななんてことを思うわけです。またこの、そうですね、刃縁、この白い刃文の上の方、この境目のあたりにはですね、そうですね、まるでこう星を散らしたようなこうキラキラした粒が見えてくると思うんです。
Even for the most skilled, an intense amount of work goes into creating each blade over several months. The result is a work of art and cannot be produced without the level of dedication masters like Akihara put towards creating these swords.
作品として常に最高のものを作らなくてはいけないという責任感と使命感のようなものがあります。それは一つには僕のプライドをかけて常にいいものを作らなくてはいけないという気持ちです。その中にはですね、僕の刀を持つ人に喜んでもらいたいということもあるけれど、もう一つは1000年経ってその1000年後の人が僕の刀を見た時にいい作品だなと言ってくれる、そういうものを作りたい。
Next, we head off to the West Fjords of Iceland. Fermented shark is a regional delicacy in Iceland. It's called hakal. It's Greenland shark that's been laboriously fermented, dried and cured over an extensive period of time. It's been done by one family in this area for hundreds of years. And nowadays, Gudrun Hildebrandsson continues the tradition. An intense level of skill and experience is needed to prepare this dish properly, as a badly cooked Greenland shark may prove fatal.
The Greenland shark is the most toxic shark in the world. Fresh. Meat, you would get very sick. Then a little bit more, you could probably go blind. And then death after that. I've been eating this shark since before I got teeth. I've been doing a curing process probably since I was 10. So this is just all my life. Just shark. We don't catch them ourselves, not anymore. Now we buy them from these big trolling boats who catch the shark accidentally. But my family used to catch them and hunt them.
Gudrun cures about 60 sharks a year. From fishing to cube, the whole process takes 6 months. The meat is first fermented in cold storage rooms like this one.
Let's check this out.
Oh, you can see the oozing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can also, this is like, it does not smell as intense as when we walked in.
No.
So this can stay here for some while longer. So here we have the thinner pieces.
Yeah.
And we make these handles in the skin for grabbing them, lifting them up, hanging them up. So these are the thinner pieces. And under here we have the fillet. So this is how that's much thicker pieces. And he has white meat. He does not have a fat layer, he has white meat. And it's very important to have the skin on because the meat is so loose itself that if it's no skin, then it's just then the meat just basically stretch. The thinner pieces, after the process, the meat becomes sort of red or brown, and we call that glerhákarl. Yeah, and the meat is it's more chewy and salty. And then we have the fillet. That stays white. The fillet we call skýrhákarl. Named after the milk product, skyr.
Yeah, we love skyr. What is the liquid that's coming off then? And
ammonia. Water, like there is a lot of water in the meat. The Greenland shark, he has much more water in him than other fishes or other sharks. So it's ammonia.
What is that doing in the scientific process of it? Because it's poisonous when it's fresh?
Yeah, the Greenland shark is the most toxic shark in the world. And the Greenland shark is a deep ocean, cold ocean shark. So Icelanders, they first started fishing them for the liver. And they used the oil from a liver. So for the first 200 years when they were fishing them, they had to throw the meat away. They couldn't use it, so it was a big waste of meat. And in Iceland, in isolated areas, it was a big waste. So 400 years ago, probably accidentally, they discovered a process to use the meat.
What would happen if I took a bite of that now? What would happen to me? Would I
now
go blind?
It's that far in the fermentation that you would be fine.
Right.
But before, fresh meat, something small, you would get very sick.
Yeah.
Then a little bit more, you could probably go blind. And then death after that.
Okay, great. That's great. I will not be taking a bite of that. So this part of the process, is this the most important part to get the taste of it, or?
This basically does everything. It makes the meat not toxic. It's preserve it. After this, you can eat it. It's not toxic, but the drying process is just to get a better texture in the meat because it's just so wet and moisty.
Yeah.
And it's very important that these boxes, they have these gaps on them, so the liquid can leak from it. And also for oxygen to get in, because the meat, it needs to breathe. There are chemical changes that are happening that are making the meat untoxic. First, people didn't know this was a chemical process. It was an accident. Now this is a chemical process, and there are a lot of interesting things that we are even still discovering.
Yeah.
It's also different after where the shark has been, in what depth, in what temperature he was caught. It's different after what chemicals are high or low in them. So in these boxes, the meat loses around 30%. So it loses a lot of weight here. And then in the drying process, it loses like 50-70%. So total use of meat is around 8%.
What happens to the ammonia when it drains? I mean, is it okay to be stuck? I mean, you've got I've got boots on and you've got little sandals with some socks. Yeah.
The ammonia the liquid here that's fine. We could drink it. I won't though.
I'm pretty sure that's a cure for something.
You want some maybe? No.
No.
One shark will give from 30 to 40 pieces of fillet. The meat ferments for 6 to 9 weeks in the wooden boxes. Then it's hung outside for 6 months to fully dry out. Our next stop is New York, USA. This 200-pound mountain of dough will soon be hand-rolled into 1,000 bagels. Just a small fraction of the 100,000 bagels made at this shop every week. This is Daniel, a master bagel maker. He's been here for over a decade honing his skills, and it's extremely evident after seeing him at work.
How long have you been making bagels? 18 years. Daniel's been rolling 18 years. It takes understanding the temperature in the air. It takes understanding his machine that he works with, how long it should mix. All these things are such important factors about what happens with our bagel.
Once the dough reaches the desired consistency, it's cut into sections and transferred over to the rolling table, where it's then formed into one large mound.
We can make up to 15,000 bagels in a day, and this will make approximately 1,000 bagels.
They cover the entire thing with a plastic sheet to help soften the dough before rolling.
And it's only about a 5-minute process that allows that dough to connect a little better with each other. They're saying hello, how are you? All those ingredients are basically doing that right now.
At any given point, there are 4 expert rollers on hand. These skilled workers have at least 15 years of experience perfecting their craft, something Scott says is a dying breed.
There's not a school of rolling bagels out there right now, and these people are experts at their field. Listen, I think Derek Jeter said it best. If you put 10,000 hours into something, you're a professional. And Daniel has definitely put 10,000 hours into it.
It takes an hour to an hour and a half for those hand rollers to individually slice, roll, and twist about 1,000 bagels.
It takes a certain type of character because it's very tedious. You're cutting the same thing over and over. And I can tell who is rolling what bagel by the way they lock their bagel and form it together. Daniel has that little lip here that I notice about Daniel's rolling that I can see, you know, those were Daniel's bagels. And it gives each bagel their own personality. Our bagels are like snowflakes. Everyone is individually different, and that's what makes it special.
Our next stop is Paris, France. Mahmoud is master of bread. He even won an award for the best baguette in Paris. What he's going to show us is not your average baguette, but the baguette tradition, which is a baguette made on site with simple ingredients.
La baguette tradition est différente parce qu'elle a un procédé différent des autres pains en fait. C'est quelque chose qu'on ne peut pas faire vite. Si on ne respecte pas le temps, eh ben, on n'aura jamais une bonne tradition. Et c'est pour ça qu'elle est unique, et c'est pour ça aussi qu'elle est connue.
Making a baguette is much more complex and time-consuming than you think. Every step requires inside knowledge, skill, and expertise. It all starts with the dough. Mahmoud starts making the dough at 5 a.m. with only flour and water. He kneads it, then at 8 a.m. he adds yeast, salt and water again.
L'eau, c'est pour par exemple contrôler la température. Si par exemple ma pâte est trop froide, je vais rajouter de l'eau chaude. Si elle est trop chaude, je vais rajouter de l'eau froide. Ça me permet de récupérer en fait, d'avoir à chaque fois la température la même tous les jours. Donc, donne un gant à madame. Mais touchez. Vous allez voir, elle est très froide.
Oh ouais, c'est très très froid.
Voilà. C'est pour ça que nous, on va mettre de l'eau chaude ici. Parce que aujourd'hui, il fait très froid. Et nous, on pétrit dans la boulangerie, pas au sous-sol. La plupart des boulangeries, ils pétrissent au sous-sol. Donc, il fait souvent chaud au sous-sol. Mais nous, non, on est obligé de s'adapter parce que s'il fait froid, eh ben, ma pâte va être trop froide. S'il fait très chaud, ma pâte va être très chaude. Donc, je vais devoir à chaque fois réajuster.
Okay.
Je m'adapte en fonction du temps, en fait, the weather.
Sa pâte, elle a reposé pour
3 heures, c'est ça. Donc, elle prend la température extérieure.
Parfait. Est-ce qu'il y a une température idéale ou...
Oui, à la sortie, 24. Quand je sors ma pâte, l'idéal c'est 24 degrés. Le plus important, c'est le mélange. Si on réussit le mélange, on réussit toute la production. Il faut que la pâte soit lisse.
On ne pourrait jamais ajouter tous les ingrédients comme ça, tout ensemble.
Bah, c'est déconseillé. C'est comme la cuisine ou les gâteaux, on ne met jamais tout d'un coup. On surveille toujours le mélange et on réajuste à chaque fois. Parce que ce qui compte, c'est le résultat. Déjà, on entend les bulles qui commencent à...
You can hear the sounds of the dough. Et vous m'avez juste dit que vous êtes en train d'ouvrir une autre boulangerie au Canada.
Oui.
Est-ce qu'il y a... Bon, bien sûr, il y a des différences de température.
Oui, ça va être nouveau pour moi, ça sera une expérience pour moi. Je sais qu'il fait très très froid au Canada, que par exemple, il y a des jours où il fait moins 10, moins 20 peut-être. On n'a jamais ça à Paris. Donc ça va être nouveau pour moi. Il va falloir faire chauffer l'eau avec la casserole. Donc là, vous voyez, elle ne colle pas sur le bord. C'est arrondi. Vous pouvez toucher. C'est mou et à la fois ferme.
Ok. Oh, ah ouais, c'est vrai. L'extérieur, c'est très ferme, mais on a...
Et en même temps, c'est comme une balle.
Oui,
Voilà.
oui.
Vous pouvez taper, vous voyez, c'est dur et en même temps, c'est mou.
Oui, c'est vraiment comme ça.
Oui. Donc ça veut dire que mon réseau, il est constitué et en même temps, c'est moelleux. Donc là, à la fin, je vais avoir une tradition avec une belle croûte parce qu'elle est dure et en même temps, ça sera moelleux à l'intérieur. Ça, c'est très très bien. Donc nous, on va mettre un petit coup de deuxième pour lui donner un peu plus de force. Vous entendez? Là, il y a des bulles d'air qui se forment et elles vont éclater. Et c'est comme ça qu'on sait que la pâte, elle est prête. Donc là, vous avez vu, ça colle. Là. Voilà. On va la laisser se reposer. Là, il y a une bulle d'air.
C'est
ce qu'on trouve dans les tradis après.
Oh.
Voilà, on va trouver. Et donc, ce qui fait la différence, c'est qu'il y a beaucoup de gens qui ont des bulles d'air, soit toutes petites. Moi, on va avoir toutes les tailles. Vous allez voir après, quand on ouvrira une, on aura des petites, des grosses, des moyennes, toutes les tailles.
Est-ce qu'il y a un message
Quand c'est petit, c'est comme tout le monde. Quand c'est irrégulier, c'est personnel. C'est pour ça que la tradie, on la trouve. La mienne, on ne peut pas la trouver ailleurs.
Vous ne pouvez pas contrôler la taille des bulles d'air?
Je ne peux pas contrôler, mais je peux faire en sorte d'avoir des bulles irrégulières. Ça, c'est un de mes secrets, ça.
When the dough is ready, it rests for 1 hour. Then it is taken out in small batches.
Donc les gens font avec la farine, nous on fait avec l'eau. C'est plus propre et c'est les anciennes méthodes.
Pourquoi pas de farine? Parce qu'on va
meilleur.
modifier l'harmonie des ingrédients.
Si on fait avec la farine, on va baisser le taux d'hydratation. Donc c'est comme si on aura mis moins d'eau parce qu'on aura augmenté de la farine. Quand on farine, quand on sort avec la farine, tous ces petits gestes, si à chaque fois on met de la farine, eh ben on va perdre en hydratation et donc on aura moins de bulles. On va casser en fait le réseau à chaque fois. Donc c'est pour ça qu'on fait avec de l'eau pour protéger le réseau au maximum. Regardez, vous avez vu les bulles?
Oui.
Elles sont déjà là.
Ok.
Et c'est pas les mêmes tailles. Ça, c'est ce qu'on va retrouver dans le pain après. Et donc là, on retrouve, comme tout à l'heure, c'est bombé et en même temps...
The batches of dough will be left to rest until the following day, while batches from the day before are going to be cut in pieces and shaped. This is when the dough starts to resemble a baguette.
On peut le faire à la main, mais ça prend beaucoup de temps.
Ok.
Et quand on fait à la main, on chauffe la pâte.
Ah oui, c'est vrai.
Et donc ça fait qu'on devra faire attention à la température, respecter que ce soit bien frais, parce que justement, on a chauffé la pâte. Et le problème de la main, c'est que ce ne sera pas droit. Il y aura des coups plus gros, plus fins, plus gros, plus fins. Ça dépend en fait de la pression qu'on met pour la faire. C'est pour ça que la machine, ça permet d'être régulier.
Et ça, c'est du coton
C'est de la toile.
Ah, ok.
Il y a des gens qui dessinent sur ça.
Ah, ok, oui.
Voilà,
Bien sûr.
oui.
Et pourquoi utilisez-vous ça?
Parce que ça ne colle pas. Et puis, s'il y a de l'humidité dans l'air ou dans la machine, et ben, ça va protéger la baguette. Le tissu il va boire l'humidité.
Et donc, la différence entre la baguette traditionnelle et la baguette, c'est qu'on utilise la pâte d'aujourd'hui?
Non, la baguette, elle est faite le jour même. Elle ne se repose pas. La tradie, elle se repose. Voilà. Donc, on met des rangées de 6. C'est l'idéal. Quand c'est trop serré, ça va mal cuire. Elle va tomber parce qu'il n'y aura pas assez de chaleur entre les tradis. Et puis, quand c'est trop espacé, ça cuit trop vite à l'extérieur et pas assez à l'intérieur. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'il faut trouver le bon rendement, en fait.
Vous utilisez cet outil en,
Oui, une planche.
bois, en planche en bois?
Oui.
Parce qu'on pourrait jamais le faire avec les mains.
Alors, en fait, la tradie, c'est l'un des pains les plus fragiles. Parce que c'est pour ça que ça demande beaucoup de temps de repos. C'est très délicat la tradition. Donc, pour protéger le réseau, les bulles d'air, en fait, au maximum, l'alvéolage, on est obligé de les prendre à la planche. Il faut être très délicat.
Parce que comme ça, on respecte la forme.
Plus on fait attention à la tradie, plus elle sortira bombée. Voilà. Maintenant, on va donner un coup de lame pour la dégazer. Et puis pour l'esthétique aussi. Voilà. Soit on met un coup de lame, c'est ce que fait Mourad. Moi, j'aime bien mettre 4 ou 5. Voilà.
Est-ce qu'il y a une règle ou c'est juste un dessin
Alors, il y a une règle. Il faut de préférence donner au milieu. Et puis ensuite, il ne faut pas appuyer. Il faut avoir une lame qui coupe bien. C'est pour ça que j'ai plein de bobos partout. Et puis plus on coupera bien, plus la grille, c'est-à-dire que c'est ce qu'on verra à la fin, c'est ça la grille. Ça c'est la grille. Ça coupe. Si on fait ça, mon gant il va se trouver.
One batch of dough will make about 20 baguettes, and about 200 baguettes will come out from the whole of the dough.
La température est-elle importante aussi?
270. C'est important, oui. Si c'est pas assez chaud, ça sera plat. Si c'est trop chaud, ça va cramer trop vite. C'est pour ça que tout le monde pense que c'est facile de faire du pain, mais faire du bon pain, voire du très bon pain ou de l'excellent pain, c'est très difficile. Ça a bien gonflé,
Ça
hein?
a bien gonflé, oui.
C'est bon, vas-y, vas-y, sors. Voilà, c'est joli. Voilà.
Ça fait juste 20 minutes. Non.
Moins 19.
Moins 19, ok.
Voilà, là on a une belle green. It's very hot.
Est-ce qu'on cherche un son particulier?
On sent que ça croustille bien, donc c'est que la croûte est bien épaisse. Et puis en même temps, on sent que c'est moelleux. C'est ça le pire. C'est que quand on touche, c'est moelleux, mais en même temps, ça fait un bruit de craquement. Elle a gardé sa forme.
C'est vrai.
Elle n'est pas restée aplatie, elle a gardé sa forme. Voilà. Donc vous avez vu les bulles, c'est pas la même taille. Donc on a toutes les tailles. Petites, grandes, moyennes. La mi teint vers le jaune. Ça c'est dû à la fermentation. Et puis, donc on a une croûte qui est assez épaisse, assez dure, et à l'intérieur, c'est très moelleux, très tendre. Et là, on sent bien le froment, le blé français. Vous voulez sentir?
Oui. Waouh.
Vous pouvez toucher, hein, vous allez voir, c'est très moelleux.
Ah oui, c'est vrai. So soft inside.
Voilà.
Wow.
Et là, c'est très dur. Ouais.
Voilà.
Il y a aussi quelque chose qu'on peut faire, ça, quand on voit ça, c'est que c'est très aéré à l'intérieur. On arrive à voir à travers.
Ouais, donc il y a de l'espace pour la lumière de
Voilà.
passer.
Quand on a ça, c'est qu'on a un réseau de bulles à l'intérieur.
Wow.
Quand on voit la lumière.
Incroyable.
Il faut qu'il fasse un petit peu plus sombre parce qu'il y a beaucoup de lumière ici. Si j'éteins la lumière.
Wow.
Vous avez vu? C'est beau, hein? C'est pour ça que la tradie, elle est bonne à manger, même pour la digestion. Elle est facile à digérer. Contrairement aux autres pains, on a beaucoup de mie et donc on se sent lourd. Alors que la tradie, non. Vous voyez, il n'y a rien. Il n'y a rien dedans.
Parce que la baguette c'est très grand, mais en fait
Oui.
c'est
Il y a
plein
rien.
d'air.
Il y a plein d'air dedans, voilà. Quand c'est bien fait, hein. Quand c'est pas très bien fait, on a beaucoup de mie dedans et on retrouve pas après là ce qu'on va voir les bulles. Voilà.
Wow.
Ça, on le retrouve pas si la lumière ne passe pas. On aura des mie et c'est pas bon pour la digestion.
Ça serait blanche?
Oui.
Ah.
Vous avez vu les belles alvéoles?
Yes, c'est vrai, ce sont tous irréguliers.
C'est ça. Ça, c'est ma signature. Vous voulez goûter? Il est temps, hein? Voilà.
Ah, merci. Pour vous aussi.
Merci. Donc là, on sent bien le blé. Et quand on touche, c'est humide. On dirait que c'est mouillé.
Ah, ok, c'est vrai en fait.
On dirait que c'est mouillé.
Ça, c'est l'air qui
C'est l'eau aussi que je mets dans le pain. Donc le taux d'hydratation que j'avais dit tout à l'heure, si on réussit à le préserver, et ben, ça fait qu'on a une mie qui est humide. Donc c'est croquant, à la fois moelleux, et ça fond dans la bouche en fait.
Il n'y a pas de mie agressive, non. C'est très léger.
Ça fond.
Mahmoud has been a baker for 28 years, but even before that he was learning about baking from his father by watching him ever since he was a child. It was there Mahmoud gained the passion for baking. He then went to study, where he gained a diploma in sciences and eventually earned a chemistry degree, all while working with his father.
Est-ce qu'il faut vraiment une connaissance de la chimie ou...
Ça m'a aidé. En fait, la chimie, la prépa, toutes mes études m'ont permis de mieux comprendre ce que je fais en fait. Parce que je sais qu'il y a des réactions qui se passent, il y a des choses qui sont importantes, des détails. Les pesées, les dosages, les mélanges, tout ça, c'est des choses qui font partie de la chimie que nous, on nous a enseignées, qui ont une importance énorme. Alors que je pense que certains boulangers n'ont pas cette notion d'importance pour ce genre de détails. J'ai des amis qui me disent je suis le boulanger chimiste. Ils m'ont donné un surnom.
Our last stop is Brittany, France. In Brittany, we met with Jean-Yves Bordier, son and grandson of butter and cheesemakers, who brought back to France the 19th century technique of malaxage, using this big wooden wheel to knead the butter. To Jean-Yves, the malaxage is a more romantic way to make mutton.
Je suis toujours parti du principe que ce qui était le plus important, c'était les émotions. Après, on va essayer de voir comment on peut faire avec les émotions. Mais si on fait un produit que marketing, ça ne m'intéresse pas. Comme ça ne m'intéresse pas de produire 10 millions de tonnes de beurre, c'est pas mon métier. Moi, je suis un tout petit bonhomme et je fais des toutes petites choses, c'est tout. C'est très dur ce qu'il fait là. C'est très dur ce qu'il fait, Eric, là. C'est le moment le plus dur. Et là, il obtient un beurre remarquable et franchement, il n'était pas facile. Hein.
Là, tu vas juste le rouler comme ça. Essayer de l'enrouler comme ça. On va le laisser tourner et après, tu vas le reprendre.
It's like no way I'm gonna do this.
Vas-y.
Comme ça?
Tu le roules, ouais.
Comme ça? Oh, wow, super.
Encore.
way.
Les gants, ils sont trop grands.
Let me just go this way, maybe.
Soulève.
Oh man, this is going super fast.
Ouais. Ouais. Tu ramènes les mains.
Ah.
Sinon, tu vas mettre ton pouce.
Ok.
Je le
Où?
fais une fois et après, juste en haut. Tu laisses ton doigt comme ça.
Ah, ok.
Juste
Ça
aller-
marche. C'est
ça,
plus
ça va.
petit. C'est plus petit.
Mais ici. Ouais.
Ici?
C'est bon.
Yeah, when you see him doing that, it almost has like an harmony. It's not easy. Monsieur Baudet said this is 50 kilos of butter. So try and lift a bit of it. It's going to be like what, 10 kilos in just in one go? Il faut combien de temps pour apprendre à ramasser le
Pour
bois
apprendre
comme ça?
ce métier, 3 ans.
3 ans.
Oui. Vous savez pourquoi?
Non, pourquoi?
Parce que le soleil et la pluie ne tombent pas de la même manière tous les ans. Et c'est le soleil et la pluie qui vont donner à l'herbe et à la terre un goût particulier que les vaches doivent aimer et que les saisons vont mettre en musique. Le printemps, l'été, l'automne, l'hiver. Et que pour apprendre à découvrir le beurre, qui n'est que le résultat de la nourriture des animaux, il faut 3 ans.
Eric then salts the butter using fine salt. This step is crucial to make sure the butter finally rejects all the leftover water it has in it.
On est en train de voir, vous voyez, quelque chose. La vis est en train de se tremper, l'eau est en train de couler, le sel est en train d'attaquer la molécule de matière grasse, et la molécule de matière grasse prend le sel comme une agression et rejette l'eau qu'elle a en elle. Et l'eau s'en va. On va avoir perdu presque 1 litre d'eau.
Ok.
Mais,
I
et
know,
je
yeah.
finis, en perdant l'humidité, je concentre la matière sèche. Dans la matière sèche, il y a le gras, et dans le gras, il y a le goût.
Oh wow. So actually I can see that it's getting wetter and wetter. It's picking up more water.
Vous entendez le bruit? Quand mon beurre chante, c'est qu'il pleure. Quand mon beurre pleure, c'est qu'il chante.
Although they work with old techniques, they're not trying to recreate an old recipe. Traditions here are valued, and the dedication and skill of the workers here uphold the same quality of butter, regardless of how much time has passed.
On travaille avec des méthodes d'hier, mais on utilise un lait vivant d'aujourd'hui. Donc le beurre que je fabrique, le but de mon beurre n'est pas d'aller retrouver le beurre de 1857. Ce que fait Eric, c'est véritablement quelque chose qui n'existe plus. Ce que vous voyez là, c'est des gestes du 19e avec un lait de 2020 et c'est comment restituer et perpétuer la qualité de nos anciens, mais en vivant dans le monde d'aujourd'hui.